Hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission. I would like to ask Angela to do the roll call for a quorum purpose.
Abedeli.
Present.
Foster.
Present.
Hearn.
Present.
Lee.
Present.
Sampu.
Present.
Tangney. Administrator Darcy Carley.
Present.
Kim Kavanaugh.
Present.
And Agent Ed Hoops.
Present.
Everybody's here and accounted for.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August the 6th, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of Town of Barnstable, DPW, Ronald Seagrave, Teri Knebel, DPOA for Donald Yunker, Gladstone LP, Town of Barnstable, Kathleen M. Eckert, Linda A. Gildea, Trustee, Clamshell Realty Trust, Oysters Harbor Clubs, Inc. The hearing is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending email requests to Darcy Curley at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, please let the chair know if anyone is recording this meeting. Hearing none, this evening's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda, next to each application is demand owner to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your checks to Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participation. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed by the governor on March 29, 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1. The hearing will be televised via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. 2. The real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 844-3830-3389 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. 3rd, the public can also email their comments to darcy.curley@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. Tonight, under the RDA, the Town of Barnstable's DPW has withdrawn the applications without prejudice. We have 4 RDA tonight. The first one is Town of Barnstable, DPW, removal of vegetation from beach area at Ropes Beach, 85 Oshore Road, Cotuit as shown in the Assessor map 035 Parcel 072. Like I just mentioned before, the Town of Barnstable has withdrawn these applications without prejudice. So they will come back again in a later date. The second RDA is Ronald Seagrave. Upgrade of an existing upgrade of a complete septic system at 45 Marston Avenue, Hyannis Port, as shown on the Assessor's map 288 Parcel 129. Is Peter with us? Peter?
I don't see him yet.
No. So let's hold it for now. And then
It's the next one too.
The next one is Peter too, so I'll hold it. And let's skip to Gladstone LP. Confirmation of wetland resource area bordering vegetated wetland and intermittent stream at 32 Pleasant Hill Lane, Hyannis, as shown on the Assessor's maps 308, Parcel 020 and 023. Lynn.
Good evening, Lynn Hamlin, representing the applicant. I was a little slow to get in here, so maybe Peter's stuck in some other room. some other virtual room.
I think he just entered. Sorry.
Do you want me to keep going or do you want me to?
No, keep going.
Okay. In 2004, the Conservation Commission issued a determination of applicability, confirming both the BVW on this property and the status of the stream as intermittent. And we're asking you to do the same today or tonight. The wetland flags were staked back in the field, which I reviewed with both Dan Odular and Ed Hoops. It's a pretty obvious wetland edge. It has a change in the topography, the plant community, and the soil type. So it's pretty defined. The difference in the plant community is that glossy buckthorn has come in and invaded both upland and wetland areas, but the background sheets remain the same for the rest of the vegetation. This time I did do additional test holes for documentation. The first time in 2004, I did them for myself, and because they weren't required to be submitted, I didn't submit them because that took longer. So I went back and dug new test holes, and the soil is the same as it was. And I inquired to the current superintendent of mosquito control project as the status of the water under Mitchell Way. Back in 2004, John Doan had written me a letter saying that the mosquito control maintains that ditch and it dries annually and regularly, consistently. And Gabby confirmed that it has not changed since then. It's the same status. So I will end there and try to answer your questions.
Thank you. Before I go to the commissioner, Ed went out to the site. Ed, you want to say your field trip?
Hello.
No, Ed.
I've got nothing else to add to what Lynn said. I was out. I did look at about half the flags, both the test holes, and as far as I'm in total agreement. And also, no Rivers Act jurisdiction for the ditch underneath Mitchell's Lane or Mitchell's Road.
Thank you, Ed.
I'm good with it.
Okay. Any question from the commissioner? Let me see. I did not see any hand. No. Any public comment? Channel 18?
Yes.
Who's this?
Hi, this is Lisa.
Can you mention your name and the address for Kim?
Yes, my name is Lisa DeLuz, and I live at 25 Pleasant Hill Lane. I live on that street, the area they're talking about, and that river has never gone dry, ever.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that because someone said it annually goes dry, but it doesn't. The stream runs right in my backyard, and I go over it every day for 50-something years, and it's never been dry.
Okay. Is that the only comment?
Well, I just want to make sure that whomever spoke, I think they misspoke. They said it annually goes dry. I may have misunderstood that, but I thought that is what I heard.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just want to make sure people know that it does not. And in fact, I talked to the conservation, well, not the he wasn't the conservation man. It was a woman. It was a man who came up there, and he asked me a couple times if the stream ever went dry, and I told him it's never gone dry.
Okay. Thank you.
May I ask a question, Tom?
Yeah, John, go ahead.
Edwin, if the fact that it does go dry or not go dry, would that bring in the Rivers Act have implications under the law for the Rivers Act, in your opinion? Lynn or Ed?
Yes, I mean, if it's considered, right now it's considered an intermittent stream. So I mean, there may be water in the ditch back where Miss DeLu's property is, but mosquito control in 2004 and again in 2024 have checked with their field crews and said that it is not a running ditch, that it does dry up. So it may still have water behind her home.
I just want to.
You've got to let me finish talking.
Okay,
Sam.
sorry.
So
Go ahead.
let Ed finish. This is not a conversation between you and Ed. So
Go ahead.
go ahead, Ed.
And so I would tend to agree with the people who do the ditch work there. They were dependent upon the actual people who do the cleaning of the ditches. So I would tend to go with their opinion. If it is running throughout the year, then yes, it would come into River's jurisdiction. But again, I typically would trust what they have to say.
Lynn, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I would just reiterate what Ed said. I mean, that's why it was significant whether there's Rivers Act implications or not. It's the property that the town is looking to put affordable housing on. And this is just the first step to confirm the wetland lines so that the proper planning can be done from here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So may I speak now?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. You may want to believe the mosquito people, but I have to tell you, I've lived in this house for close to 40 years, and my parents live on the other side of the stream. It has never gone dry. The mosquito people seldom come down here. And in fact, my brother takes a large clam rake to get the leaves and all the junk out. And there's a little piece that got clogged up at one point because of all the debris. Once the debris moves, the water goes through. I mean, you can come down and I'll give you a personal tour if you'd like. Just let me know ahead of time and I'll walk you right through it. And it goes up behind my backyard, under Mitchell's Way, and it goes into Betts Pond, and it's spring fed. So it always has water in it.
Thank you. Pete?
So I'm going to need, so maybe Ed or someone, is this a drainage system that flows between Sturgis West eventually and the Melody Tent? Is this the same drainage system?
Are you speaking?
No, I'm actually asking Ed or Darcy.
Pete is asking, Pete, the commissioner, Sam Plu is asking question to Ed or Lind.
Well, eventually it goes into Stewart's Creek.
Yeah.
Is where it drains, under Mitchell's Way into Stewart's Creek.
And
Right.
is that, it goes on, is that what goes under Scudder Lane right by the Melody Tent?
You already have solar panels.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so, but I
Also, because I can speak, I have long, because I'm a Sturgis teacher and because I do environmental studies with my classes, I have long experience with that drainage system that flows between Sturgis West and the Melody Tent down in, I think it's into Stewart Creek. And while there are puddles of water that may exist, it actually does not, it is not a flowing river. It is not a flowing stream 12 months a year. I am positive of that. During springtime, it is a pretty good flow, but it does not continue its flow. That's a key point here. It is not a flowing creek year round. It does have standing pools of water, but through the Sturgis land, the old cranberry bog that Sturgis owns there between the Melody Tent and Sturgis West, it does not continue its flow. There are dry patches in between the puddles.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm speaking the little stream. It doesn't have a name that goes between my house and my parents' house. It's been there since we were children. And the lady on the screen right now, she was down there. And I found your little digger, by the way.
Well, thank you. I think Pete's comment is it's fine, and I think your comment is heard, and we need to move on. Channel 18, any more public comment on this?
I guess I
don't believe so, but if there's any, now is your time to speak.
Tom.
I guess not. Who's next?
Louis.
Louise?
Just for the record, are we talking about the same stream? It would be nice to know.
Are we talking about what, Louise? Ask the question again.
The same stream. It would be nice to know that for the record. I mean, Mr. Luca is saying it's spring fed, for example. Right.
But I think that it's the down gradient section of the stream that dries up. So anything up gradient of it, the flow would be interrupted. So
Right.
I don't know exactly right behind her house what's going on, but just at Mitchell's Way, it dries up. So therefore, there's no contiguous flow. I rely on Cape Cod Mosquito Control because they have the consistent history with the project. I pop in and out of context of these properties, but I do have the experience from 2004, which has not changed in 20 years. And I do rely heavily, and the commission has historically relied on Cape Cod Mosquito Control's consistent presence at these water places.
I'd like to add to that too. So we can move on. Rob, prior my time, and I have always depended on mosquito control, and that's how we make these judgment calls. They're the experts. They're out there all the time. So I have no problem with this, and we should move on.
Yeah, thank you. Could I have a motions to approve this project as a positive determination?
So moved.
Anyone second? Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney. That's unanimous. Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Can I
you.
just ask one question? You said a positive determination?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
That's just a confirmation of the delineation.
thank you.
Correct. We go back to the second one. Second RDA is the Ronald Seagrave. Upgrade of a complete septic system at 45 Marston Avenue, Hyannis Port, as well as the Assessor's Maps 288 Parcel 129. Peter?
Yes, good evening. Peter McEntee with Engineering Works representing Ronald Seagrave. And so Ronald has a house that has 3 cesspools. Actually, 2 are cesspools. The other one's a gray water system. The gray water system is going to be disconnected and filled. All the sewage will be directed to a new gravity flow septic system in the front yard between the house and the street, keeping it as far as possible away from the bordering vegetated wetland. The 100-foot buffer comes up pretty close to the front property line. Our soil absorption system will be 91 feet at its closest point to the BVW, and the septic tank will be 83 feet from the BVW. Separation of groundwater is going to be satisfied, and this plan has gone before the Board of Health already. So.
Thank you, Pete. Like Pete said, this application was approved from the Board of Health in July meeting. So any question from the commissioner? John, did you raise your hand?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay.
I'm scratching my head, Tom. So.
Channel 18, any public comment on this?
I don't believe so, but if you do have any, now is your time to speak. Seeing none.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Tangney, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last RDA is Teri Knebel, DPOA. I guess is the durable power of attorney or something for Donald Yunker. Proposed upgrade of a complete septic system at 263 Tower Hill Road, Osterville, as on the Assessors Map 118 Parcel 094. Pete.
Good evening, Peter McIntyre with Engineering Works representing Donald Yunker and Teri Knebel, who's the designated power of attorney. Again, the septic system on Sam's Pond, which consists right now of a septic tank, a 55-gallon drum pump chamber that pumps the sewage up to a trench located just inside the property line along Tower Hill Road. We are planning the same thing with an upgraded tank, combination 1,500-gallon tank, 500 pump chamber, which will be located 42 feet from the inland bank on the edge of Sam's Pond and pumping it to a location outside the 100-foot buffer in the side of the hill. So fairly challenging site, but I think this plan will achieve what we need to achieve here. If you have any questions, please let me know. This one to the Board of Health also.
Yep. No, this was approved in the July meeting on the Board of Health as well. So any question from the Commissioner? Bill?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Why is it being replaced? I don't think it said why in the application. And where was the old leach field? Now it's outside of the 100?
Yeah, the old leach field, I can't really share my screen, I don't think. So, but there is a leaching trench that's up along the edge of the front property line on Tower Hill Road. It's completely root bound. The pump chamber is, the pump is actually not working right now, but the tank is actually, I think what happened is they found a buoyancy problem when they were putting the tank in originally, because the tank comes in halfway through the tank. And we need to dewater to be able to get that tank pump chamber in there. So,
the new leach field is no closer to the wetland, right? I mean, it's outside of the 100.
Right.
Yeah, it's outside of the 100. That slope going down there has sort of a natural terrace right at the tree line. So I wanted to make use of that terrace to be able to put the system in, because it's an extremely steep bank from that terrace up to the road. So from an installation standpoint, I think it's going to be a lot more reasonable, and a lot less vegetation will be taken down in the front because it's along the tree line. So,
thank you.
So basically it's a failed septic system.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is a replacement of it. So any other question from the Commissioner? None? Channel 18? Any public comment?
I do not believe so, but if you have any, now is your time to speak. Seeing none.
None. Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Tangney, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, Pete. We have 4 NOI tonight. The first one is Town of Barnstable proposed maintenance repairs to the existing licensed 680 feet steel bulkhead located along the shoreline of Bismore Park, including steel plating, epoxy recoating, and anode replacement at 180 Ocean Street, Hyannis, as shown on the Assessors Map 326, Parcel 08068. Is Jeremy here?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Jeremy Packard. I'm here on behalf of the town of Barnstable in their proposed project to perform some rehab work on the bulkhead at Bismore Park. Am I allowed to share my screen on this?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
I think I need.
Yes, I let them know to put your name down.
To see. Okay, it's not working yet. Oh,
all right, you're all set to do that.
Thank you. All right. This is just the Google Maps image here in the Inner Harbor. And so the proposed rehabilitation is right in front of Bismore Park and extends from the parking lot just south of Spanky's, just south of the Highline property, all the way to the southern parking lot north of the Highline ferry terminal. So I'll reduce that, go to the plan. So this shows the site plan. It really doesn't show too much more because all the work is on the face of the bulkhead itself. So it's a really pretty uninteresting site plan. We did show this temporary area behind the bulkhead just as a potential work area. And that would be any closings to pedestrians there would be done in stages, right? You'd never see this whole thing closed down at once. It's more that the contractors would move their stationing as they move along. So let me get to the actual work proposed. So initially, this bulkhead was scheduled for full reconstruction. We performed a structural inspection in 2018. We had some concerns. The recommendation in that report was to start permitting for a full reconstruction in 2023, which we began doing. We began preliminary design on the full replacement of that bulkhead. As we were doing that, there was some additional analysis that was performed at the request of the town, basically looking to see if we could gain some more service life out of this without having to do a full, $10 million reconstruction project. So we looked at that a bit and did some additional investigations and decided that it was possible to get some more life out of this bulkhead by simply doing some recoating, replacement of the existing coating, both in the splash zone and above the water line. So the proposed coating goes from 6 inches below mean low water to 2.5 feet above the mean low water line. So coating just in kind of just below the water line to the top of the bulkhead, right underneath the concrete cap. So that would be one proposed repair. The second one is installation of sacrificial anodes for cathodic protection. There is no anodes installed on our bulkhead or from what we can see on either of the bulkheads to the north and the south. So that does lead to increased corrosion rates. And we think we can slow that down significantly by installing anodes on the face of the bulkhead. So these anodes are installed at mid water depth, right? So you've got your mean low water line, you've got your mud line here, and you just install them right in the middle. The repair for that is basically just to clean off the existing coating and corrosion, rust, anything that's there, get down to nearly clean metal, and then weld these anodes right onto the sheets themselves. They catch any stray current in the water column and help with corrosion to slow the corrosion rate of the sheet piles over time. And then so lastly, our final proposed repair rehabilitation measure is to steel plate select areas of the bulkhead that have exhibited significant corrosion and are less than 1/4 inch in thickness as they stand today. So the intent is to be on site full time with the contractor while they're taking their readings, their thickness readings up and down each sheet of the bulkhead, right? And then we identify specific areas that meet this threshold for corrosion. We identify those, those patches. We'd offset that about 6 inches just to kind of overlap it a little bit, cut that portion of the sheet out. I'm sorry, not cut it out. We're not cutting it out. We're cleaning that portion of the sheet off and then welding steel plates back over the top of it and then recoating those steel plates. And the reason why we don't know exactly where those plates are all going to go is that, number one, we don't have thickness readings across, comprehensive thickness readings across every sheet on the bulkhead, right? That's a cost that would basically, it really wouldn't make sense to do right now. The intent is to do that as part of construction in real time, so the contractor basically takes on that cost. And the second is the cost of the overall project, right? So the funding for the project is about 1.1 million right now. So of that 1.1 million, we know we have to do coating on the entire bulkhead, right? So take that coating cost right out of it. Then we know we have to do anodes across the entire bulkhead. I just got the anode cost estimate earlier today, this afternoon. So I haven't got a chance to run the numbers to find out how much the coating and the anodes take out of the total budget, right? So say we're left with $500,000 after we pay for all that, the remaining budget for the project will all go towards the steel plating. And the intent is to start the worst areas that we've seen based on existing inspection reports is down at the southern end of the structure in the commercial fishing offload area. So the intent is to start down south, the southern end here, and do our readings and work our way up and basically get as much plating as possible with the intent to at least get past the commercial fishing area because that has the highest loads, at least get past this commercial fishing area. If there's money left over, we'll just continue moving north until we have extinguished all funds. So that is the proposed work. Impacts are, we included land under ocean as an impact in the notice of intent form, only because I thought it was disingenuous to not really include any impacts at all. But the land under ocean impact that you see is actually not in land under ocean at all. There's no impacts to the mudline whatsoever as part of this project. We instead took the area of the proposed coating on the face of the bulkhead and calculated that area and included it as a land under ocean impact. But this is really, it's standard maintenance work for the structure, really low impact, no impacts to the mudline whatsoever. All work, the majority of work will be performed from a work barge. We will obviously work with the harbor master for scheduling or any concerns there. We do have the blessing for this project from the Harbor Waste Committee, the Waterfront Commission. Their last meeting, I was at their last meeting, they weren't able to, they didn't have a quorum. They didn't have enough members to attend for a quorum. And so verbally, like I have approval, I have their, their blessing on this project. We just have no, we expect to close that out officially on the next one with the quorum. And that's the proposed project.
Thank you, Jeremy. That's my understanding as well. And we also get no comment from DMF on the review of this project. One thing that is missing from your applications is the shellfish report. And I think that is needed for these applications. Darcy, is that correct? Did I say it right?
Yes, so we would have been expecting that or a phone call ahead of time to be able to talk to Shellfish Department. So as it stands now, since Liz didn't see that report, I don't believe she went out, and I think we're still waiting for Liz's comments on this project.
Okay.
So I would be recommending
I'm sorry, Darcy, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please finish.
So basically, as I explained to Jeremy, I can only report to the commission that it was an expected report from MEA, from Liz, to be able to read that. So she then make a decision before she goes out to do the site visit. And the only one that would be able to waive anything like that would be the commission tonight. So.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
no, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just speak to that real quick. I spoke to Liz earlier today. I sent her an email, basically explaining the project that we were doing. No impacts to the mudline whatsoever. And then a couple other pieces here that I wanted to bring up. We dredged this project. Right in front of Bismore Park. Here's the park here, northern parking lot. So we dredged this section of the harbor. We finished that earlier this year. That project was reviewed and approved by the commission. So there was dredging performed here recently. Shellfish suitability, it's not mapped as a shellfish suitability area. You know, it's the inner harbor, a working waterfront. We're all familiar with the operations that go on there. The DMF comment letter didn't have any concerns about shellfish. There were no concerns there. I brought all these up to Ms. Lewis on a phone call today and sent her an email, and she agreed verbally that a shellfish report would not be value added to this project, right? And she acknowledged that it was simply the letter of the law that piers and docks require a shellfish report, and a bulkhead falls under the definition of a pier and dock, and therefore a shellfish report would be required. So the only reason that she was hesitant to officially say, yeah, you don't need this, is for the precedent setting for other projects, right? And I mean, we do a lot of work on piers and docks and bulkheads, and typically we're driving piles, right? We're driving piles. We're doing something to the mud line that would have some kind of impact on shellfish. That is not the case in this project at all. There is no impact to what would potentially be shellfish habitat, which is not even actually shellfish habitat. So those are a couple reasons. And further, it's a town project. This is a town project funded by the town. And so because there would be no value added, it would just be additional cost and burden to the town to require the report.
Tom, I do have in the email that she was corresponding to me, she said, if in fact it's a gray area, then I would say it's okay. It's fine with me to proceed, but I would like these projects to have the surveys done in the future so we can make it clear somewhere. Can we make sure that this happens? So the commission has to be the one to decide, although I don't have any other thing official about that she went out and looked, but maybe since he had the conversation with her, I don't know. I'm just stating what she has in the email. It sounds like she's okay.
Okay. Thank you, Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a few hands here. Pete?
Yeah, so I actually also take my students down in the inner harbor, look at some of the water column stuff. I'm at least visually familiar with the sediment there. Mr. Packer saying that there's not going to be any impact on the mud. I completely believe him. Everything he said, based upon my scientific background, being a PhD oceanographer specializing in nearshore benthic communities, I completely agree with his assessment. I see no problem. Outside, again, this is a unique application in front of us. I don't think we're setting any kind of precedent. I agree that the verbal communication that Ms. Lewis has transposed with both Mr. Packard and also with Darcy, I don't think we need a shellfish survey of this, and there's not going to be any impact. And the habitat there is, quite frankly, pretty garbage for any shellfish of commercial interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Louise?
Just a tiny concern. When you're applying the epoxy coatings, I'm sure you're making, well, yeah, I am sure you must be making measurements that would mean that the chemistry of the epoxy coating that's going on to make it durable is complete before the tide comes up and perhaps washes some of that material off the substrate. You see what I'm saying? You need
Yes.
to,
The cure time basically to let it dry before.
Yeah.
And that's why we use two different kinds of epoxies. For below mean low water to 2 feet above, we use a splash zone epoxy, which has a much quicker setup time. And it's also more durable in that area. It tends to get a little more of the abuse. And then above that, we have just a regular standard two-part epoxy recoating that it doesn't have as much of a cure time, so less concerned with the tidal inundation.
Okay, I just want to make sure the chemistry is over before the water comes back.
Yes, yeah, that's the idea, definitely.
Thank you.
Just like painting. Bill.
It is painting.
Yeah, based on what I heard from Jeremy and from Pete and from Darcy, I'm totally fine with this project.
Thank you, Bill. John?
I would sort of join with Peter in that, make it clear that in fact the requirement for shellfish comes from our regulation. It is not a legal requirement except by commission regulation. That same regulation says everything is site specific. So I don't think we're creating any kind of negative precedent given the testimony that's before us if we waive the regulatory requirement of a shellfish study. I don't think that creates, because it is site specific, any future concern as I see it at least. Secondly, I'd like to go back to the email from Darcy. When you're cleaning these corroded plates, Jeremy, I believe you responded to Darcy in an email about the methodology to make sure what's happening to all of the parts that go flying off of that. Can you comment further on that, please? And what steps are being taken to ensure that that's not going to create an issue?
Yeah, sure. So we require that the contractor use a wire brush that is equipped with a vacuum system. So it basically just sucks everything up as it's working, right? As far as 100% efficiency on it, I can't speak to that for sure, but I know that the wire brush with the vacuum system is standard procedure, standard practice for this kind of work in these kind of conditions. If it would be additional cost to the project, being a town project, but if it would please the commission, we could include the requirement for a debris boom to be in place during the work. And then further, we also require equipment submittals from the contractor leading up to construction, right? So we would get a cut sheet that basically says what the equipment looks like, what the efficiency rating is, all the technical specs for it that we would look at and prove that for use during the work. And we could pass that along to the commission for review prior to construction, if that would make everybody feel better.
I'd like to hear, I have my own reaction to that, but I'd love to hear Darcy's reaction, please.
Darcy, do you have any comment or you wanted me to chime in?
I'm going to let Tom chime in. It's nice that they can offer. Maybe we can just make a decision at the time. I don't know, but let's hear from Tom.
From my experience, I kind of looking at the projects from the landward side when we're trying to, sandblasting the steel and then coating, welding another sheet similar to this projects. And this project is almost on the coastline applications. You always have dust and it's difficult to get 100%. So, I like to have that debris broom to kind of catch it and then also have the contractor to prepare the repair protocol so that they understand what we are looking for. And obviously, if the submittal for the equipment that can be submitted, we can take a look at it. That would be ideal. That's my 2 cents.
Then I'd like to make a suggestion, and that is that if we approve this, we could put in a requirement that that information be submitted to conservation staff, and if at the discretion of the staff, they could bring it back to the commission if there was concern or approve going forward with it.
Yeah, we could agree to that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, do we want to have those debris booms employed or installed while they're doing the repair work?
If the booms aren't necessary, it's a waste of money. If in fact that vacuum system is, 90+% or whatever efficient based on the evidence that's presented to Darcy, then fine. I don't think the boom's necessary, and expenditure of money is not necessary from an environmental point of view. That's my view.
So I think what we would do is include the boom as a bid alternate, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have the price for it. And then if deemed necessary, the contractor knows what he has to do. We already have a price for it. If not necessary, we don't spend that money and we use it to do more plating.
Sounds great to me.
Yeah, sounds great because you don't employ the boom all the way because you're doing section by sections. So you're only talking about a small sections of the boom for that working area.
If the boom is even needed.
Correct.
Right.
So we can get the written protocol like 4 weeks before and then have a pre-construction meeting?
Yeah, definitely. I can get that to you and we can set up a discussion about that as part of the standard pre-construction meeting that we would have as a requirement anyway.
Okay, I can live with that. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, sure.
I would just like to completely agree with Commissioner Abadili on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Channel 18, any public comment on this? Channel 18?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to a submitting the contractor to submit a repair protocol 4 weeks prior to the start of the work and a pre-construction meeting with the conservation staff? And what else? I think that's it. Oh, the other one is that we are going to we're not going to require the shellfish report for this project because of the site specific that John mentioned.
Just a slight modification, Tom, if I can, that in that condition, a special condition is that the staff would have the authority to approve or could to require a boom if necessary.
Okay, so it's amended for my motions.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, Jeremy.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Yeah, good night. The next NOI is Kathleen and Eckert. Proposed invasive species removal and restorations with native planting at 46 Burning Tree Lane, West Barnstable, as shown on the Assessor's Map 136, Parcel 027. John.
Good evening, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. Also here this evening in the meeting room are the property owner and Rob DeMello from DeMello Brothers Landscaping, Inc. I'll bring up a plan for you all. While I do that, this is just over an acre parcel up in West Barnstable. We're near the inner end of Barnstable Harbor, kind of close to the road out to Sandy Neck. We have an existing house that was built finished around 2000. Our bottom of our property is the landward edge of the salt marsh. And we do have land subject to coastal storm flowage and coastal bank reaching above that. Our bank and buffer zone is heavily invaded with invasive species. Rob had outlined some of those to you, including oriental bittersweet, wild grape, Japanese honeysuckle, autumn olive, multiflora rose. So our project as proposed is to try to restore that bank and portions of the buffer area. It's the applicant property owner purchased this property around 2008. The changes in the vegetation that have occurred in that time period are kind of astounding. And, we're hoping to bring it back and be a healthy bank and buffer zone to the harbor. I think that Rob put together a pretty detailed management plan. I think being very mindful of the environment and the conditions on the site. I think most notably is talking about trying to leave some of the root systems where possible so as to not actually be disturbing the ground at all where possible, again, because we do have a slope. I think with that, myself or Rob or the applicant are here and would be happy to answer questions you may have about the project.
Thank you, John. Question from the commissioner. Bill?
I think it looks like a good project. I'm just curious, what are the herbicides that are being used on this project?
Can you hear me?
Rob, do you want to?
Yeah. We typically use Roundup Custom. It's made for aquatic use.
Roundup. Okay. Thank you.
Any other question from the commissioner?
Just a comment.
John?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty awesome. And that they're doing this. My compliments to the homeowner and to the work that was done on this thing. From an environmental point of view, I think it's really a significant improvement. Thank you.
Yeah, this would be a big change. Any other question from the commissioner? 10:18, any public comment on this? Dave? Dave, is there any public comment on this? I assume no. So, John, I'm thinking of two special conditions in here. One is the annual report for 3 years, and second is if there is a change of the contractor for the Middle Brothers, that we need a written notification to the conservation administrator.
I understand those are pretty standard conditions for these types of projects.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to one, a written notifications to the conservation administrator if there's a change of the contractor. In this case, is the Middle Brothers, and second is the annual report for 3 years.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. It's unanimous.
Good luck, John, and
Thank
good
you.
luck, the homeowner, Catherine. The next one is Linda A. Gildea, Trustee, Clamshell Realty Trust. Proposed construction of a garage additions with access from existing driveway at 5 Presence Path, Osterville, as shown on the Assessor's Map 071, Parcel 022. John?
Good evening, John and Dave from Sullivan Engineering Consulting again. The applicant for this project is also here with us this evening. I will let me switch the plan over and then I will bring that up for you. Okay. This project is located at 5 Pheasant Path on Oyster Harbors in Osterville. It's about 1.25 acre parcel developed with an existing dwelling, a pool cabana. All these structures appear to have been built in the 50s or 60s based on the aerial photographs. Just off the property to the south is the edge of salt marsh. That's what we call Great Cove, which is off of West Bay. Again, we have land subject to coastal storm flowage and coastal banks, the town bank kind of wrapping around this end of the salt marsh. Our project as proposed is to construct a small garage addition That work is located outside of the 50-foot buffer, between the 50 and 100-foot buffer. We have provided the mitigation calculations on the plan. We've come up with a nice mitigation plan, I think. We worked with Mainstay Landscaping, who have been doing some other work on the property or will be moving forward, and came up with a pretty good planting list and plan for how to improve that buffer zone and make it something sustainable. Do have a work limit shown on the plan. I would note to you that the plan that I have on the screen today has a revision of today or yesterday based on some preliminary comments we had from staff, where they asked that the work limit had kind of ended by the end of the garage. They asked it to be extended up to the 100-foot buffer. We wrapped it a little bit further, even kind of getting it around the drainage structure and making sure there was good access off the driveway. I hope it's a pretty straightforward project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. The revision date on this drawing is August the 5th. Any questions from the commissioner? Bill?
Yeah, I have some mixed feelings about this project, which proposes to mitigate the effects of increased hardscape with the removal of invasive species. The project already has a pretty heavy footprint in the 50 to 100 foot zone, and it's got a pretty substantial footprint in the 0 to 50. And when we mitigate simply with invasive plant species, the invasive plants can grow back in 4, 5, maybe 10 years after they're removed. And yet, we're not eliminating them. But once we permit hardscape, it's grandfathered forever. And that hardscape can then be, it can be flipped into some other configuration of the house down the line. And so it's a permanent loss of a buffer, and you're getting a few years of invasive species management. Our town's ordinance is and our commission, I think we do a pretty good job trying to protect the 0 to 50 foot buffer, but the conservation of the 50 to 100 foot buffer provides even more protection from the effects of overland flow of pollutants, and especially in areas with a relatively high gradient. And the 50 to 100 also provides a lot of important habitat for wildlife species, which, the amount of wildlife habitat is going down increasingly in our town. I think reducing the human footprint somewhere in the 0 to 100 buffer, in other words, we're literally reducing some yard or eliminating hardscape, is a much more compelling reason to allow additional hardscape. So that's like my negative side. But then, that all being said, the 50-foot buffer line in this project is concerned with 50 feet from the town coastal bank and not from the salt marsh. And I think that's important. There's actually another 50 to 100 feet of vegetated sloping upland, below the coastal bank. And so the impacts are much less. So that in effect, from the actual wetland, that garage is more like 90 feet away, and that the new driveway is over 100 feet away. And for that reason, I don't object to the project. But I guess I'm speaking to the commissioners here in particular. I urge you to consider the legitimacy of invasive plant removal as a primary mitigation tool when we're talking about protecting wildlife and water quality within literally 100 feet of a wetland. And that's not the case here, but I want to make that distinction. So although I'm supportive of this, if this was a wetland buffer, within 100 feet, I'd have a different opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Angela?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm not against this project either. But however, Bill did a nice job of expressing exactly how I feel, because I'm not happy that there's a pool and hardscape in the 50 and we're actually putting in additional hardscape. I'm not going to repeat what Bill said. I feel exactly like he did, but I don't see any reason at this point to prevent the project from moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Pete?
Yeah, I'd like to remind our viewing audience that the excellent analysis given by Dr. Hearn is in part based on his expertise as a scientist very familiar with the water. I completely agree with both Ms. Tangney and Dr. Hearn. So, Bill, thank you very much for that caution that you are alerting our commission and the public to. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Any other question from the commissioner?
Yeah, I have.
Sorry, Louise?
Darcy, as far as this removal of invasives and mitigation planting, don't we have some sort of guard against this use? Say somebody they put in the mitigation and then they let the invasives come back, and then somebody else comes along and says, I want to do something else between 50 and 100. I'm going to put mitigation in, and I'm going to take and take out the invasives while I'm doing that, and that is going to compensate for the new material or new hardscape that I'm going to be putting in the 50 to 100. Do we have something that guards against that? In other words, double dipping in that area. In other words, having a cycle that goes on and on and on about replanting and so forth and so on in the same area over and over again through the eons.
I don't have a specific special condition that says that, but it's kind of understood. I am pretty careful when a project comes in to check whether the new proposed plan sits along okay with what the prior buffer zone strip was, and that they're not trying to double dip that. So it kind of falls on staff to look at this and see what was permitted before.
And that's all we rely on. Is that right?
I'm sorry, what?
That's what we rely on, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Nothing in writing. There's nothing in writing that, okay, it's your mitigation, but we can't force them, for example, to maintain the control of invasives.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, the only thing that we can just do is basically been doing the annual reports sometimes, not on every project. But if we believe it's a large enough planting area, we do the annual reports for 3 years. But I don't think we can state that it's an ongoing condition for years and years and years and make another homeowner. I don't think, we've never done that. I have not had a special condition.
I think you could very easily condition something that the mitigation area can't be used for future mitigation.
In all due respect,
Right,
I think
but
we're
I
worrying
think
about something that is so, I can't fathom that we're going to be writing something about this scant possibility.
Right.
No.
I mean,
I was
I
just
don't
saying that we can't make a homeowner way down the road make sure that they're treating the invasives. Once the treatment's done, we don't usually allow additional treatment of the invasives unless it's something that's definitely spelled out. Like if John says, I want to treat, we want to continue to treat the invasive. I think we do say that you can cut them out if they're starting to affect the shrubs, but we're getting too concerned over this.
Right. But
I mean, just in general, relating to what Bill had to say, if somebody has permission to take out invasives, they have our permission to continue to control those invasives forever, right? They can't.
In a certificate of compliance, they could request an ongoing right to maintain that.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, you wouldn't want somebody else to come along if those people who initiated the work became bored with the situation and just let everything go to pot. Some new project couldn't use renewed invasive control as mitigation.
Correct. Not in that area. Correct. Bill has his hand raised.
I understand, but what I want to say though is during that conversation is I think we have relying on the staff to go back and check on that parcel on the previous order of conditions in terms of the mitigation area and trying to find out which area that they have used and taken some credit for that. And we have been cautious doing that quite well, I think, staff wise, and we also. In the last few years, we have been putting on, allowing the invasive removal as an ongoing conditions on some of the projects, but not all the projects. And previous project, we don't have those conditions, and we start adding those ones in. So, Bill?
You're missing my point. I am not talking about double dipping. I am not talking about expecting people to maintain like new landowners taking over. It's not about that. I'm saying that you do invasive species control.
Right.
You clean it up. Suppose the person's living there for 20 years. I'm making that up. 40 years, whatever. That could go back to invasive species.
Yeah.
And the homeowner's happy. Oh, hey, we got invasive species, whatever. They now have hardscape there. And the invasive species, for all practical purposes, basically are maintaining, some filtering capability, some nutrient uptake, yada, yada, the protection of the wetland. Right now, the wetland is, you don't want to have the nutrients come down, you don't want to have the sediments come down and whatnot. And removing the invasive species is a nice thing. It sounds nice. But after they grow back and everyone goes away, never mind double dipping. I'm not talking about double dipping. I'm talking about, now they've just got an invasive species lawn, if you will, back there, but they got their hardscape. And you've just reduced, you've increased the hardscape in the buffer. That's the point. It's not about double dipping.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Any other question from the commissioner? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
I don't believe so, but if you are here to speak, now is your time.
So, John, the only condition that I'm thinking about this, Darcy, you can chime in, is the annual report for 3 years.
I understand that, and I would just, I appreciate Bill's and the others' concerns. I can tell you that we've been kicking this project around for a decent amount of time, and even having discussions with staff. It's kind of a unique corner of this cove where it's like, is it even a coastal bank? It doesn't actually face open water, but it is facing high tide, so I guess it is a bank. And we're talking about an addition that's outside of the 50-foot, and it's in a lawn, and it's landward of a pool and a house and all these other things that have been there for 70 years. So is it really the commission's, whenever they wrote the buffer zone regs 30 years ago, like, to stop this kind of a little project? It's not like a demo rebuild. We don't really have anything to give. It's like there's a pool and there's a little bit of yard around it. Probably half of this, I would note, isn't invasive. Half of this is like there's ornamental plantings, around the pool that we are pulling out and putting in native. But, we've struggled just to even get this to you because it is kind of a little bit of a different situation. Not that it's ever should have been something that wouldn't be approvable, but it doesn't quite fit perfectly into any hole. So I understand the
Tom, just if I could just, I'm good with the project. I'm good with it because it has an additional, whatever, 60, 75 feet of additional upland vegetated buffer before you hit the, and that's not being counted. And so I'm good with it. It's when the alternative, when you don't have that long stretch of upland buffer. That I understand. So I'm good with it.
Bill. Yep, I understand, Bill. Darcy, 3 years annual report, is that okay?
That's good. Thank you.
Could I have a motion to approve this project with the revised plan date of August the 5th and annual report for 3 years?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney. Aye. Passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last NOI is Oyster Harbors Club Inc. Proposed grading / leveling with landscape wall located within a portions of an existing lawn at 170 Grand Island Drive, Osterville, as shown on the Assessor's Map 053, Parcel 012-001. John.
John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. I work on pulling up the plans with you all. I believe that we're all very familiar with the Oyster Harbors Club at this point. We've kind of gone through every building here of upgrading over the last number of years. We're here this evening, so we're on Tim's Cove. This is part of the overall parcels on the island, which this is the house, golf courses across the street. We're looking at the back lawn of the property. It is sloping. The request this evening is to do some grading to flatten that out and construct a landscape wall. It would be running along the limit of where there is an existing split rail fence that was demarking some prior mitigation efforts for the various projects. We've outlined all of those areas and labeled on the plan. We have, because that wall is located in the buffer zone, we did do buffer zone calculations, and we have offered mitigation, continuing what the efforts have been out there for the last 15 or 20 years. We keep kind of expanding on this meadow area. This plan that I have in front of you, again, is a revision dated today based on some comments we had from staff. Making sure to denote relocation of the demarcation around these additional areas, and also notation about the time of year for mowing that would now apply to kind of all three of the past demarcation areas. I hope it's a pretty straightforward project. It's a property that's pretty heavily used. We're working in the lawn. We have a deep coastal bank that separates us from the beach and the bay. And hopefully all these meadow areas that have been adding up over the years are helping to buffer that bank and the harbor. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. The revision date on this drawing is August the 6th. The mowing period that John was talking about is mowing twice a year for the mitigation area, but no mowing between April the 15th and August 15th. And this would apply to all the other two prior order conditions, the SE3-4398 and SE3-5711. So they will be all under one general condition for all three order conditions. So that makes it simple for the understanding. Question, John.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. John, I was out there again today and walked that property. I'm kind of impressed that that mitigation area is growing to protect those tennis courts. I'm not quite sure. I think that's great mitigation offering. I am concerned because it's just kind of grass down to where the split rail fence is, which was a requirement on demarcation. Why do you need that wall? What's going to happen after the wall is in that's not happening today? I'm concerned, for example, with the use of that, especially if you're going to raise, I assume, level off the elevations once you put the wall in. Is that correct? My assumption correct?
That's correct. It's about a 4-foot high landscape boulder wall down there that would help to flatten that lawn so that we would have, a more level area between the patio and the bank.
And what's the use of that? I mean, I don't, maybe it sort of sounds a little bit like Bill now, and I'm kind of worrying that what's going to happen with this thing. I mean, we're going to be coming back with tents on it and parties on it and platforms on it. I mean, what is the purpose of leveling that off and putting the wall in?
We're okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
Hey, we have discussed this with the club because we've just been through a tent process at our other club in town.
Right.
And it is not the intent to set up a seasonal year-round tent or anything in this location. There are tents that go up at this property in this locational tent permits issued for a weekend wedding, more so on the shoulder seasons than in the heat of the summer. But this area is used. It will be continued to be used. It's more functionality. 4th of July, there's however many thousand people out, on that lawn and spilling off the patio, and it just makes it a more comfortably usable area, but it's not trying to change, how the place has been running since that clubhouse was built 15, 20 years ago.
Except, isn't it right to assume that with these changes and the reason for putting in the wall, the reason for changing the slope of the lawn down to that wall from the patio is to allow increased use of that by people? Isn't that a fair assumption, John? Isn't that why they're doing it?
That's not my understanding. I mean, I think it's just a better use of it. I don't think that they've got outdoor dining, they've got indoor dining, they've got indoor formal dining, indoor casual, they got a patio, they got a front patio, they got this is spillover area that I don't know whether they ever set up a table, there outside of the occasional wedding. But it's an area that's they feel could be improved.
Yeah, I'm looking at now you're putting in, I would say, hardscape that with the wall. Are you going to put the vegetation in front of the wall? Is it question? Is that right? What's going in front of the wall on the land side of the wall?
The land side of the wall was not specified as being like mitigation vegetation. There will be a strip of vegetation there just to not have people walking over it.
Yeah.
This thought is not that if we're trying to separate, there's the mitigation areas that may not be as pretty as a planting bed along the top of a wall. So
see, I kind of look at it and really wonder, because there's so much that was done at the club. It's a beautiful place. But now you just have grass going down to the split rail fence. And now you're saying, I want to put some hardscape into it. My assumption, and I think it's fairly rational assumption, to say that that's going to result, and the reason the club is doing it is for increased use of that lawn by people. And then in return, you're offering mitigation of more meadow in front of the tennis courts. So I sort of shake my head as I try to balance all of this, John, I must admit.
Thank you, John.
Here's a comment. in terms of increased use, I don't see how it's a measurable amount. I mean, there's a limited number of people. They're not doing this to have more space, to have increased membership. There's an existing kitchen. It can only put out so many meals a day. They're not trying to do more seatings or anything like that. They have a couple weddings in May and June, and maybe a couple weddings in September or October, but that's, they're not looking to change that aspect of it.
Well, perhaps somebody could explain why they want to spend the money for this wall. I mean, it isn't to beautify the property. Why are they going to spend the money to tear up the lawn? And I put more dirt in there, I assume, to change the elevation of the grass. What then is the function of that? The purpose of that? I'm just curious. Maybe my assumption is wrong.
I mean, there's the kids campus off to the side. Is it an improved area for the kids to play during the day? I mean, it's a sloping, it's pretty to look over, I'm sure, when you're sitting up on the patio, but it's not a functional yard per se. And I think they just want it to be like
more functional.
More functional, but not more intensely. Not like some change of use, but just more functional.
Okay, thank you.
More usable space, level space.
More usable level space. Right now, the lawn is, we also look at it as how does this project impact the bank or the beach or the bay? And, we're working within the existing lawn. We have a stable bank. We have a stable shoreline.
Soccer. Badminton.
Maybe we'll set up a league.
Croquet.
Well, any other question from the commissioner? No?
One more question, Tom, before the public. Why isn't, from a mitigation point of view, if you look at putting more meadow, which really is adjacent to the tennis courts, why not offer at least mitigation by plantings in front of that wall? If it's otherwise approved.
We were just expanding on the areas that were already there. We're trying to improve the functionality of the lawn and offering a plant, then taking that strip and planting it back, I think somewhat defeats it. And again, we're trying to look at keeping the mitigation separate from the landscaped areas so that things don't morph over time. I think that native plantings could go into that planting strip too. I just don't want you to think that it's not going to be a maintained strip. So that's why we're not counting it as mitigation. But I'm sure that there's a palette of native plantings that could go into that strip as well.
Excuse me, Tom?
On the drawing, it mentioned about a 3-foot wide ornamental planting bed in front of that landscaping wall. On top of the landscaping wall, sorry. Darcy?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I like the location of where he's offering the mitigation, and maybe he could actually promote that area as the monarch butterfly pledge. You know how the commission is signed on to that along as the town manager. So maybe they could do that area as monarch butterfly plants.
Yeah.
But I like the location where he has it. I think it's it is in the 50-foot buffer, and it does stretch it across.
But Darcy, isn't it really more in front? As I walked it today, it looks like it's just really on the side of where the tennis courts are, isn't it? Or did I look at it wrong?
It's it's defining the edge of that path now, so it seems like it's making sense to have it there. It's I'm not sure
probably
if-
the area where the grass is the closest to the beach. Yes, in other places we have a wider bank, but we're closest to the beach. It's where it's pitching down to the low point of the property. It's kind of keeping people walking down that path more contained.
Yep. Louise?
I just was going to say that putting plantings on the landward side of that wall, covering the area which has been brought up to the level of the surrounding existing lawn, kind of addresses John's concern, because if you've got bushes there, the usage isn't going to change. I mean, people aren't going to be dancing on it and putting up tents and whatever. So maybe that solves part of the problem and concern.
And like I said, I don't think there would be any objection to coming up with a list of native plantings, but I can't tell you that someone's not going to weed the bed along the top of the wall like you might see as a mitigation. Like the mitigation areas never get touched. I'm saying, like, that's your edge of your lawn. I don't.
Yeah, I'm just saying it could be, it doesn't have to be untouched, but if there are plants there, even if they're maintained, the usage is not going to be dramatically enhanced by leveling it off.
Right. Okay. 10:18, any public comment on this?
I don't believe so. There was somebody in here, but I think she left the meeting. So if anybody else is here to speak, now is your time. Seeing none.
So let me try this. Darcy, if I missed something, let me know. Could I have a motion to approve this project subject? I mean, you have the demarcation line already showing up as split rail fence, but we need to have the mow twice per year and no mow between April 15th and August 15th. And this applies to the other two order condition, SE3-4398 and SE3-5711.
But wait, if we talk about having native plantings there, we're not going to mow them. And we're not talking about meadow, we're talking about bushes.
I'd like to have more discussion on Louise's suggestion, Tom, but I don't know how the other commissioners feel about that.
I'm not finished yet. I'm saying,
okay, go
let
for
him
it.
finish.
Go for it.
The other thing I was saying is that, work with the staff on native planting in that 3-foot strip area that we were talking about. Am I right?
I thought we were, but you were talking about mowing all of a sudden. So
no, the mowing is of the mitigation area that previously identified
by the tennis court.
Yeah, I was actually thinking it would be a great to have it on the left side of the path going down where John, can you point to that section?
Yeah.
This is
that whole square area, have that the habitat for the monarch butterfly and have him work it out with staff on what are the plants that in there and if they need to mow around the plants. A lot of them, I think, are something that can be mowed. I would check that. But
okay.
But Louise was also talking about in front of the wall.
Yeah. So the usage of that area is not dramatically enhanced by people. It is not dramatically enhanced.
I think, Louise, if I understand correctly, you're talking in addition to what Darcy is talking about for that already identified mitigation area.
Yes.
But Louise is talking about the 3-foot area, right? The 3-foot strip area.
Along that entire wall.
Yeah. Yeah. So with those, I meant it to including those, the one that we talk about with Darcy on that monarch butterfly planting stuff and the 3-foot area strip.
Is it really a 3 foot? It's the width varies, doesn't it, from the drawing?
I wrote it as 3 feet plus or minus in case someone wanted to be creative and not have like a straight line and make it more like a planting bed. But, you know, is it 2.5? Is it 3.5? It was thrown that way. 3 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that ended, anyone okay?
It's basically the area that's going to get filled in is what I'm talking about, because John is concerned, and I can agree, that how is that filled in area going to be used all of a sudden? And I'm saying if you have plants there, human beings are not going to be stomping all over it, and they'll leave it alone. It can be weeded, and it can look pretty, but it won't be used for weddings and so forth in terms of serving food and setting up tables, etc.
But you're talking about the strip above the planting strip that we'd already shown above the wall that
Right.
Select from native plantings with.
I'm not convinced. I don't know if it's really a strip or if it's the area that I'm talking about, the area that it's going to be filled in.
So they will be grading up to the patio. So I don't think that planting
we only want
lawn would be excessive. But
we only want 2.5 to 3.5 feet.
I think we only talk about the 3 foot strip area.
Okay.
Well, okay, then I'm sorry, but I misunderstood. I didn't realize you were going to be filling in all the way up to the patio.
Yeah, how much fill is being brought in? Like to know.
Oh boy.
I mean, when we looked at this earlier, planning the agenda, we actually talked about that. And we concluded, oh, no, they're not talking about that much fill. They're just talking about sort of in the area to level it off down by the wall. That's my recollection of the conversation.
So, I mean, by this area where my finger is, we're talking about inches of grading. I mean, the idea is to take this sloping lawn and to make it more level. So down at the lowest end, there's 4 feet of fill going in there, and it diminishes to 0 as we work towards the patio.
Right, because of the contour.
Yeah. Do you have the height of the wall, Tom?
We do have a top of wall and a bottom of wall on that plan, so it was set to.
The top of the wall is 35.5, and the bottom of the wall is about 3. Let me see here. 30.5.
It's a 5.5 foot wall.
It's 5 foot. 30.5 and 35.5.
Okay, 5 foot wall.
So are we okay with the 3 foot strip, or we want to do more?
Well, I guess I'm not clear on what I would guess would be kind of like the negative contour of fill is in this proposal.
So runoff is going to be sheeting off the lawn towards the bank slower.
Right.
Which is good.
Most of it's going to be at the wall, and it's going to gradually be reduced as you approach the building.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But see, just in support of what John had to say, if you're worried, if you're saying it's not going to change the usage in any way, it's just, I guess, going to look better. How far up are we talking in terms of something more significant than inches? Inches, I'm not worried about, but 5 feet.
Let me zoom in.
Actually, 5 feet, it's not 5 feet because a good part of the wall will be exposed,
I
right?
think that's a 1. So I think it was 4 feet. So right here, there's 4 feet of fill. And the lawn will still slope, 2 or 3%. So I'm not telling it grading to the inch, but if that's 4 feet of fill, that's 3 feet, 2 feet, 1 feet, 0 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now, didn't I just say, it's not a track. It's not a track and it's not level or even. I wasn't the usage, although I totally agree with John Abadili and I love what he brought up. I just think maybe John O'Day, if he just said, they want to put a wall in here because it'll be prettier. Right now it's overgrown and ugly and I think it'll look nicer from the patio. It might not have had such a long discussion. That's my opinion. Thank you.
And there would be no fill involved, right?
Thank you, Angela. Let's wrap this up quick here.
Yeah, I think the person, excuse me, Tom, that wanted to speak is back on. I think it's about this case, just that's the person trying to sign on if you want to check.
Yeah. Good
Okay.
point. Maria. She's got a silence. Unmute herself, Tom.
Channel 18.
Yeah, I've been trying to get her to unmute.
I don't know.
There we go. There's feedback from somebody. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Lower
Yes,
volume.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh my God, this is horrible. All right. This was earlier. I've been trying all to get into the meeting, and this was about the development near Mitchell's Way.
No, this is not. Mitchell's Ways is gone. We finished.
Well, I understand that, but I apparently have been trying to get on all night, because someone spoke to me right at the end. So I would like to say a couple things if I could, just so you hear them, please.
Okay.
That stream has never, ever been dry. I have lived on that stream for 61 years. There were river otters a couple years ago. I have a documentary of the swanicles because I watched the baby swans over the last, you're 31 years old. My daughter's 31 years old. That stream has never not run. We used to walk through there with bare feet, my sister and I, and race little sailboats when we were little kids. I had a baby duck named Arnold, not knowing it was a female, and used to watch it run and drive, swim in and up and down that little stream as a little girl. That was our pond. That was where I was going to have my father make it big enough to have a river dolphin because wolf dolphins could live in fresh water. I don't know who ever said that thing has ever been dry. Who? I don't understand. And not only that, cleaning up the mosquitoes, my brother's been cleaning that stream for 61 years. Just like all the trash, I pick up the trash all along the pond, all along the stream every Friday so I can bring it to the dump. That water has never, ever, 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 ever been dry. And I don't know who, when, 100 years ago? I live on the pond. My backyard is the pond. If that stream ever dried, my pond would be dry, but it's not. It may slow down, and that's because the conservation doesn't always go in and clean it because my brother cleans it. He's been cleaning it. And the let-out valve that goes across over there by the lawyer's place over there, all the trees have fallen over there. It's backed up, and no one's been in there to clean that up. That water's supposed to flow all the way through and under the street. It goes all the way through. That's been flowing for years. So dried up, I don't know where that came from. And I just got the information from my sister, and I've been trying to get on all night because, if you want to go back to some old films, there's probably films of us running through there when we were kids getting the ducks that were over there. We used to get the bullfrogs out of there. What are the plants? The ladies, well, not lady slippers, the little plants that eat everything. I'm gonna get them all charged up over here. I have turtles that lay in my yard every year. I have scooped up snapping turtles with shovels. They're so big out of that pond. So, I mean, this is a thriving area with ducks. There's a colony of red-winged blackbirds over there that is the biggest thing I've ever seen.
Excuse me, Tom, we're in the middle of another hearing. We need to finish the other hearing. We shouldn't be doing this.
I think that's enough information to get you going. You can call me and I can come at a better time, or I can write a letter, but I just wanted you to hear somebody else. Thank you.
Please write a letter, and then we also need your address for Kim.
I will.
What is your address?
69 Mitchell's Way.
69 Mitchell's Way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Now let's get back to the Oyster Harbor project. So how much do we want? I mean, 3 foot is do we want more, or we want to keep it at 3 feet? That's the question. I think talk about it for the last 15, 20 minutes now.
Well, I don't think we really know what the contour is that we're changing. We don't know how much significant fill is really going in where, do we? Because Tom, John, you said, well, you thought it was 3 feet here and then 2 feet there and so forth and so on, but that's kind of a guesstimate.
If you look at the drawing, John, you can bring up the drawing.
Yeah, it's not really a guesstimate. Where I'm showing you where the existing contours are. And,
all right.
And I'm assuming if we filled it totally flat, it would be 4 feet, 3 feet, 2 feet. It's going to have a very gentle pitch, so it might be 1 foot 10 inches and not 2 feet, but. And that's a pretty good indicator of following the existing contours, what the new grade will look like.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, between the patio and the landscaping wall, in general, will be like a 35 foot. If you look at the contour, the regraded contour with the 235 on the left and the right, that area will be all 35. Am I right, John?
That's correct. Yep, we're going to pick the patio elevation is at like 36 and a half. Here's the 36 contour. So again, like 0 grading here, and that lawn will slope at 2%-ish down to 35.5 at the top of the wall.
Right.
So John, Abadili, how much coverage, shall we say, of plants that would avoid additional usage? How much would that cover to make you feel good about it?
I'm not sure, because it's a fairly large area from the patio to where the split rail fence is, where the wall is going to go. It's a pretty large piece of grass. It's going to be elevated up to 3.5, 4 feet towards the wall. It strikes me as, if they had I don't know, Louise, whether it's a 4 feet or 3 feet or 5 foot wall, that's kind of my leaning towards this. I think that's a good compromise. But again, I really would appreciate hearing from Bill and Peter and a little bit from Angela, because I think she has added some comments, but I'm not sure how you other commissioners feel about this.
If I could just comment on that, in terms of using, again, it's the same people using it. It's going to be nicer. Right now, the lawn goes all the way down to the fence. So it's, in terms of, are we having more usable area? No, we're having 10 feet less usable area for dancing on the 4th of July or whatever.
But if it's a sloped lawn, you're not going to really have tables set up for luncheons and stuff like that. Yes, they serve food inside, but there are all kinds of things that you want to use the outside lawn for. And if you've got slopes, a significant slope, it's not going to be as useful for certain kinds of events, right? I think that's what John Abadili is talking about.
I don't know.
That to me is a very rational conclusion.
Let me go to Pete. Pete?
Yeah, I'm not seeing much of a problem on an environmental standpoint. Let's put 3 or so feet in front of that wall of native vegetation, let them weed it, make it pretty, not huge upgrowth. I think that's going to add habitat. Combination of the wall and something other than grass there is a benefit. Removing essentially upwards to 10 feet of lawn that exists there, reducing the slope means you've got less runoff. I think this is fine, and we're getting a big butterfly area out of this.
How are we reducing 10 feet of lawn? It sounds like
it's coming back from what is there now. I mean, that's what
the lawn goes all the way to the where it's
I see. All right.
Today. So
I think this is good from an environmental standpoint.
Well, let me try the 3-foot strip for now and then see how we go from there. So previously I make that motions and then we talk about using the mitigation area, that the new mitigation area on the walking path there for the modified butterfly, and working with the staff, and then the 3-foot area as well for the native planting. Is it native planting in there? Or working with staff for that planting. So let's go with the 3-foot for now. That's the motions.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
All right. Abadili?
Aye.
Foster?
Aye.
Hearn?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Sampu?
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. Passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Good luck, John. We have 4 easy certificate of compliance. Douglas B. and Elizabeth E. Evans, SE3-5786. Mariana Tchaikovsky, SE3-4730. John and Martha Dukins, SE3-6120. Sarah S. Lentz, SE3-6014. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili? Foster?
Aye.
Hearn?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Sampu?
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. It's unanimous.
We have 3 sets of minutes, June 25th, July 9th, and July 16th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili?
Aye.
Foster?
Aye.
Hearn?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Sampu?
Aye.
Tangney, aye. It's unanimous.
Our next meeting is August the 13th. It's a 3 p.m. meeting. And could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Tangney, aye. Sampu?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Hearn?
Aye.
Foster?
Aye.
Abadili?
Aye.
It's 8:18. We're adjourned.
Thank you.